Okay, I am officially live. Um, yeah, I'm officially live. This is my third talking video, so very exciting. This time I have a title. Last time I didn't. I added title, so if you go back and watch those other two talking videos, they have titles. Hopefully this video is in between both of them or shorter. I do have time constraint because I have other stuff that I need to get to, but I wanted to do another video because I always have a lot to talk about, and I wanted to do one either Friday or Saturday, but I didn't have time. Very busy. So I'm just gonna try to come on really quickly and talk about what I want to talk about, and then hopefully you guys can engage in the comments if no one tunes in live. I read every single comment, whether I reply or not. I see it, so I try to reply if I feel like a reply is needed. So I'm going to talk about men's rights first, and then I'm going to talk about human trafficking. So these are new topics to me. What I mean by new topics, I mean I'm actually getting educated on them. I always kind of had a passion for men's rights, and I always had, oh, lovely. Um, I always had a passion for men's rights, and I always had, um, a passion for human trafficking ever since I saw Taken. If you've seen the movie Taken, then you will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so let's just get on into the video. I'm going to read some statistics, and then I'm going to tell you my own personal side and stance on this whole issue. So I'm going to be looking at my phone for this. Men are 97% of combat fatalities, 97% of alimony they pay. They make up 94% of work suicides. They make up 93% of work fatalities. They make up 81% of all war deaths. They lose custody in 84% of divorces. 80% of all suicides are men. 77% of homicide victims are men. 89% of men will be the victim of at least one violent crime. Men are over twice as victimized by strangers as women. Men are 165% more likely to be convicted than a woman. Men get 63% longer sentences than women for the same crime. Court bias against men is at least 6 times bigger than racial bias. Males are discriminated against. In school and university, boys face vastly more corporal punishment than girls. 40, well, I don't know if that says 40, but about 80% of homeless people are men. Women cancers receive 15 times more funding than men. Than men. At least 10% of fathers are victims of paternity fraud. 1/3 of all fathers in the USA have lost custody of children. Most are expected to pay for this. 40 to 70% of domestic violence is against men. However, less than 1% of domestic violence shelter spaces are for men, which that is a stagnating. I don't know how to pronounce words. That's a very scary statistic. Speak, Stacy. And there's 3 more chunks about breast cancer, cancer, and yeah. So that's a lot of statistics. And, you could look at those and you can make arguments here and there for them. I think statistics are good for studies and for knowing about a problem, but I do not think that they are the end all be all. Statistics can be faked. It really sucks when they're fake because then it makes everyone else skeptical of legit statistics. But honestly, unless you do a sample size of everyone, it's kind of hard to get an accurate statistic. Because if you ask my group of friends, if the whole one out of every 5 women being raped, that's a statistic, I don't agree with it, but I think it's been discredited a lot. Oh, someone's spewing. Hello. But if you look at the 1 in every 5 women being raped, if you interview my group of friends, it's going to be 0 in 5. It's going to be 0 in 10, maybe even 0 in 20. So, Shaka. So I think it's kind of hard to look at statistics that are from very selective sample size, and that they teach you stuff like that in statistics about sample sizing and what to look for, and if it's actually going to be accurate, if it's a good representation, if it has flaws, if it needs to be discredited, if it needs to be rewarded. Like, statistics are important, but they can also be flawed. So I do want to make that note. When you read off statistics, like I just did before, know that that is not, unless it's interviewing every single person, or it's a very, very big sample size of like hundreds of thousands of people, it's kind of hard to have validity in it. But from a personal standpoint, let's talk about cancer, for example. I didn't read you the statistics at the bottom for cancer just because it was a long chunk of a sentence, and it's no fun watching someone read stuff when you can go find out yourself on the internet. But I just remember growing up, breast cancer was always pushed. I was constantly being made aware of it, wearing pink in the month of October. They had tons of like 5Ks and runs and fundraising and school events, and just, it was everywhere. It was out in the open. You couldn't hide from it. And I think it's good to raise awareness. But I think when you look at something like breast cancer, which is pretty much only affecting women, then it's kind of like, why isn't there, why aren't we talking about men's cancers as much? Why isn't, I don't know, someone told me that there was a men's month for cancer, but it's like, okay, but no one's talking about it. It's like if I deemed April 27th Human Trafficking Day, and we were going to talk about and that was Human Trafficking Day, but if no one talked about it, no one did anything, no events, no fundraising, no publicity, nothing. If that wasn't out there, then it's a useless day. If there's no point of having it. It's just like pandering and just throwing them a bone because, gotta be fair. So I didn't really like that. And after, this could be personal, but my dad had prostate cancer. He is doing fine now. He got surgery, is doing good, but just, there's not as much research in it. There's not as much funding, not as much publicity. It's kind of swept under the rug, and it's just as prevalent as other cancers. It's not like this super rare cancer that no guy gets. Like, no, like, you should get tested once you get above a certain age as a man about cancer. So I guess when I'm talking about men's rights is, I think women and men should be treated equally, but should be known to be inherently different. They're different. I am not the same as a man. I have a lot of differences. I could write a whole book on all the differences between a female and a male. And I think what's interesting about feminism is that they're trying to break down what makes women so great. I mean, I can't speak for every single feminist, but I just have seen what feminism was, and now it's been hijacked. It's like, we have the right to vote. We have equal pay. We can work. What else is there to fight for? Unless we want to be men? Like, I don't want to be a man. I love being a woman. So I just don't really understand what feminism is about now. It's like, the big things have already been won. What is there to do now? Women and men are always going to be looked at differently because we're different. Sorry, but we are. And so I think I see the hypocrisy in feminism today because they only want to talk about women's issues and they discredit men issues. Men don't have problems. Men don't have issues, and women's issues are all because of men. I don't know. It's a very weird place to be in now in society. And from a film perspective, I know that there is a lot more male directors than female directors. And I think there's reasons for that. Being a director, you kind of have to have a certain mindset. You have to look at things a certain way. And I think men do it better. Shoot me, I don't care. I think they do it better. Maybe not all the time. Obviously, there's some great female directors. Some of my favorite movies are by female directors. But I think which is interesting is if you see female like celebrities and stuff speak out against the industry and the victimization, it's like, okay, well, you're a famous rich celebrity now. I understand if you had to do what you had to do to get where you are, but now you have the money and the resources. Fund your own movies, be your own producer, hire a female director who's your friend, hire a really awesome cast, crew, a female, like, do it. Who is stopping you? If you're not doing it, you're kind of being a hypocrite because you have the resources now. As a celebrity with tons of money, you can go out and make the things happen that you want to happen. You are not a commoner who has no money and has no resources. You have all the money and you have all the resources. So that's kind of the hypocrisy that I see with celebrities. It's like, if you're going to talk about feminism, then actually practice it. Actually go make feminist films. Go make, films that empower women. Let's see. I don't know. I would love to, maybe at a later time, I'll do research and look at the top like 10 actresses and see if they worked on films with female directors. That would be so interesting to see. But enough about celebrities. I talked about cancer. Oh, I guess another thing is same with STEM. So many people are like, oh, there's not enough women in STEM. It's so terrible. And I'm like, my mom's a civil engineer. She was like the only female or one of the only female in her college courses. She was so smart in high school. They didn't offer calculus at our high school back then, that she had to go to a college and take a calculus class. Like 4 people from her high school went to a college to take a calculus class, and then she went to college. She got a civil engineer degree, and then she went straight into the business, has had a very successful career, worked at a company for many years before she decided to switch because she wanted to change. And she's been doing good. So, seeing her as an example, and then also I had well, not really a friend. I knew someone who had a mother who was also in engineering. It's like, I think it's just hard because it's like, that's not, I know worldview is always something to consider and experiences, but I never wanted that. And I know tons of other people who are women who do not want to be an engineer or a research scientist or I don't know, like doing all of these isolating, lonely, very methodical, very I was gonna say intellectual, but doing those type of professions. Women naturally like to be around people. That's why you see so many women being teachers, human resources, I don't know what else, nurses, all of these. Oh, hello. All of these jobs are very caretaker oriented, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, back in the day, women were school teachers because it was like, oh, you can't go to college and be a college professor because, you're not as intellectual as men. But now you can be a college professor. Now you can be a doctor. Like, women in the past paved that way for you. You can do that. If I want to be a doctor, I could be a doctor. The only thing that will be standing in my way is myself. No one else will be able to stop me. I can apply for medical, I can go to school, I can then apply for medical school, I can go through the entire process to become a doctor, I can do my residency, I can have my own practice, I can make a ton of money. I could do all of that if I wanted to, but I don't want to, and a lot of other people don't. And so I think it's just kind of terrible to be like, oh, society says women can't do this. It's like, no one told me that I can't do this. If anything, it was like the opposite. It was like encouraging me to. My mom was like, are you sure you don't want to? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I don't want to. So that's just something that should be considered. First and foremost, we live in a society that empowers women. If you are in America and you think that we don't empower women, please, please go to a Middle Eastern country, to a country in Northern Africa, to India, to places in China. Go to those countries and then come back and tell me if we empower women or not, because you will be very shocked of how much we empower women here and how much they don't over there. Hello from Australia. So yeah, just keep that in mind. What else is there? Um, I don't know. I think I think it's kind of I think there's a disproportion between where are you from? I'm from California, West Coast baby. Um, I think that I don't know. I think it's just so interesting. I think there is sometimes a disconnect between our actual experiences and then our views, if that makes sense. Like I don't know. It's there's just so many interesting things with this society. Um, I literally could go on and on and on, but I think that's it that I have to talk about men's rights. Oh, from Brazil, awesome! That's super cool. We're like literally halfway across the country right now. That's insane. Um, okay, so now that I've talked about men's rights, and I could talk about men's rights forever. Well, maybe not forever, but I could. It's a big topic. There's this movie called The Red Pill. I have not watched it yet, but I plan to. So, The Red Pill is a very good video documentary. It's a movie about men's rights and also shows feminism as well. So, I really like that because it kind of can contrast both of them. Did you watch Bill and Ted yet? No, I did not. But I watched Farmlands. So I did watch a documentary, but I did not watch Bill and Ted yet. I am sorry, I kind of forgot about that. But Farmlands is a really good documentary. It's on YouTube. It's by Lauren Southern. It's about South Africa. And yeah, Farmlands looks good. Yes, it is very good. Yeah, it's about South Africa and how the white farmers are being killed and how the country is kind of on a very an upside down scale, kind of preparing for civil war and just kind of going into chaos and collapsing. So that's a very interesting documentary that I highly recommend. It's very not talked about that much. Are you a teacher? No, but I love learning and telling people about what I learn. So I guess I'm kind of a teacher. I don't know. I feel like everyone should be a teacher in some ways, but I don't get paid to teach. So I'm not a teacher by profession. Um, so I almost thought about becoming a teacher. History, to be specific. I love U.S. history and I love European history. I also love English a lot, especially American and European English. Long as you're not a commie teacher. Oh my gosh, yeah. Uh, yeah, no. You would be a good teacher. Aw, thank you. That really means a lot. Yeah, I would like to think that I would be a good teacher. I love learning and empowering people to learn and think and discover and all of that. Some of my favorite teachers were English and history professors and teachers, so I think that is kind of where my love for those subjects came. It's also very much how my brain works. I can do well in math and science. I held my own. I did really well in school, but definitely not my preferred subject. But yeah, so now we're going to talk about human trafficking. This is very prevalent. I found this website, so I'm going to read some more from this website. You can go to it. It's humantraffickingsearch.org. So it has a lot of frequently asked questions, but they estimate that 40 million people are victims of modern slavery in 2017. 40 million. Can I ask you something? I mean, sure, you can ask me a question. That's what this chat is for. Mm, okay, we got like three questions coming at me. First is multiculturalism, human trafficking. Two, what do you think about Orlando? And then three, would you teach the guys proper English? Oh, that's so funny. Um, I'm not gonna teach people English right now. That is, I would need to get paid for that. They can go learn it themselves. That's not my job here. But is multiculturalism human trafficking? That is a very loaded question. Very, very loaded. I'm going to be very careful how I answer this because I don't want to be quick to answer. Um, I would say it depends on how you define multiculturalism. I think who you talk to, you'll get very different answers. If you're talking about Europe specifically, I will just say what is going on in Europe right now. Europe currently, at its current state, human trafficking exists within Europe. Now, whether you want to equate that to multiculturalism, that's kind of up to you, but there is human trafficking happening in Europe right now, coming from North Africa and the Middle East, through Turkey, through Greece, through Italy, not so much anymore. They kind of started restricting it and pushing into Europe. So, yes, human trafficking exists all over the world. It looks differently in every single country. So in Europe, it's a lot of refugees, mostly men, coming in and burning their passports, paying tons of money. It's a business. It is a business. Human trafficking, wherever it is a huge business. But that's one way it looks like in Europe. And then in Africa, one of the ways it looks like is little boys on fishing boats, diving into water to get the nets, and drowning sometimes and going through extreme physical exertion at such a young age. Sometimes they're captured at 5. And yeah, so, and they're not always captured. Sometimes it's a lot of deceit. I've noticed only the majority white countries get multicultural and don't see them for the Middle East, Africa, South America forcing it. Yeah, that is very true. Very, very, very true. I mean, I could talk about multiculturalism, a whole different video. I will definitely touch on that later. But right now I want to talk about human trafficking specifically. So in Africa, they lie to the parents. A lot of human trafficking is false promises, lies, coercion, power. It's just a ton of manipulation and lying and deceit. So they'll tell the children's parents, like, oh, like, we're going to give them an education. Like, if you give us money, then we'll take them to this cool place for an education. We'll get them educated, better life. They lie to the parents. So the parents willingly give their child up to these people, but under a false pretense. And then they're working on these boats on lakes, fishing and diving very deep underwater and getting these nets out. And they're trapped. They're slaves. They are slaves. In Thailand, it looks different because in Thailand, it is a lot of prostitution and a lot of sex trading. So there's called the red light district, I believe, and there's it's like this whole street and section of Thailand, and it's legal there. It is legal. Prostitution is legal. There's nothing illegal about it in Thailand. So that's the really crazy and corrupt part of it is, you know, and they'll have people from all over the world and be like, oh, you can have this person, you can have this type of person, you can have that type of person, the whole shebang. So that's what's really sad about human trafficking there. I mean, it's all sad everywhere. And then in America, it's through the southern border mostly, and these women are raped, and as they come across, a whopping number of 80%. I watched a doc once showing young teen models in Russia being told, go to USA to model, but they end up in prostitution. Yep. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Human trafficking doesn't just come to the USA through the southern border. It happens to that. It's all false promises. It's all, you're gonna have a better life, you're gonna have an education, you're gonna make lots of money, you're gonna have the, you know, the Western dream, you're gonna be able to go to all these cool places, have these opportunities. It's all a whole bunch of lies and false promises, and they're preying on vulnerable people. They're preying on people who are in certain situations where they can be taken advantage of, and sometimes they don't have anyone who knows that they exist or anyone who would notice they're gone, and it's really scary, and it's really, really tragic, and it's really, really sad. I know in Europe they tell them to burn their passports, so now they have no identification, they have no way of getting home, and you feel trapped. I mean, you have no idea where you are, you don't speak the language, you are scared of your like master and what they're gonna do to you. Maybe they know where your family lives. It's terrible on so many levels. And California, where I live, is like the #1 place in the US. Like the state of California is #1 for human trafficking. And especially in Southern California. I mean, it's insane. And it looks in so many different ways. I mean, we'll have people in like nail salons. Not every single nail salon, obviously, but nail salons, they're forced to be there. Farming. Farming's a huge thing. You get basically free labor or very, very cheap labor. And port towns are very prevalent because, you know, port ships coming in and out, it's very quick. You can kind of get people shuffled in and out very quickly into the next place and location. I mean, if you're a smart human trafficker, you'll capture someone and then move them somewhere else, because then if they do escape, where are they? They don't know where they are. They're in a different country. It's not like, oh, two stores 2 blocks down is my house. Like, no, they're going to try to remove you as far away from your current location as possible. I mean, like I said, movies like Taken is a very, very good prevalent example of that. In places like Middle East, go passport, all you need to do is get paperwork, fill it out, take a photo. No idea needed. So how do we know they are who they say they are? Oh, are you talking about how you can get an ID really fast and like a passport? I mean, yeah, fake IDs, fake documents, fake papers. I mean, they'll do whatever they need to do to make it look legitimate. I mean, that's definitely a thing. They'll have fake documents if that's what you mean. Definitely fake IDs. They'll look legit on paper, but are they really legit? No. And we just do a blind eye to it because it's just like, it's not prevalent. We're not seeing it in our day-to-day lives. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, but we're not confronted with it face to face. It's not like, here is my slave. It's like, oh, this is my maid that I have coming to live with me, you know? What do you say has a ban from them countries? Are you talking about the Middle East countries? Why does the USA have a ban from the Middle Eastern countries? I cannot speak on that personally. I do not know enough about that information, so I don't want to make stuff up and speculate, but that is a good question. I'm sure there is a lot that goes into that. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. I mean, the only thing that I've heard people talk about is the certain countries that they picked have a lot of terrorist groups. So that's kind of an aspect that I've heard people talk about, but I don't know enough to go into detail on that subject. But I don't think that it's bad. Like from a standpoint of like a sovereign country, I don't think that it's bad to be strict on immigration, on who you want to let in and who you don't, because you want to let people in, just talking in a broad sense. In Australia, when the boat people get here, they throw their passports in the water. So when do you know who they are? Yeah. So we don't know who they are. Yeah, exactly. They're told to throw their passports away, because then they can't be forced to go back. 100%. It's a part of the human trafficking. It happens in Europe as well, and then they're stuck here, and they're stuck on the welfare state. They're stuck in this foreign country, and then unfortunately, a lot of them lead to crime. I mean, it's just kind of that cycle, and it's a very vicious cycle. But what I was trying to say is just a blanket statement, not talking about this specific issue. It is not a bad thing to be specific on who you want to let into your country. If anything, that's smart, because you want to let people into your country that share the same values that you share. Now we're kind of talking about multiculturalism. Yeah, I don't want to say any more about that topic because I want to make a whole video on multiculturalism and immigration and diversity and all of that. Should be immigration on merit? Merit meaning legal? Again, I definitely want to talk about immigration, just not right now. So we're not going to talk about immigration anymore, okay? Definitely want to make a whole other video on that. To close up on human trafficking, the southern border is a very big deal. I think another video. Yeah, thank you. The southern border in the US, the wall is very controversial, but human trafficking is happening across that border, and as Anna Paulina says, or Anna Paulina, I'm pronouncing her name wrong, you should go look her up. She makes great videos. I think it's Anna Paulina. Um, says that if we have a wall, it's protecting people on both sides. And I completely agree with that. It's the protecting the people coming in, because then they can't be human trafficked and they can't be put into slavery and they can't be exploited and taken advantage of. And then it's protecting American citizens of not having high rates of crime and people coming into the country and crumbling certain cities and stuff like that. So I think that that is a portion of that. And yeah, a nation is not sovereign without its borders. Plain and simple. I think I'll talk about immigration on a totally different video, but just know that human trafficking is real. It's happening all around us. Look at the signs of how to spot human trafficking, and I'm just now being like awakened to this issue because I think it's not talked about enough. I think it's kind of suppressed. I mean, the fashion industry, for example, fast fashion, huge, huge marketplace for human trafficking and slavery, child labor being abused. So I try as much as possible not to shop fast fashion anymore. I think that's a huge one. And I think people need to start talking the talk and walking the walk. Because if you're going to say that human trafficking is bad and then go and buy 5 tops from your local store, chain store like Forever 21, H&M, Walmart that sell stuff for super, super cheap, you gotta wonder. It's like you kind of need to do both. Shop at clothes made in your country. Yes, it's probably more expensive, but if you're so against human trafficking and you're so against slavery, then you're gonna have to pay more for the stuff. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that human trafficking is bad and then go buy all your cool, cheap stuff that clearly comes from child labor. So that's a huge thing that I've been trying to check myself on, of going to local boutiques that have clothes at higher prices, at better quality, that are sourced better. It's a better investment for yourself. The clothes last longer, and you're not help perpetuate child labor. Don't most of the female human trafficked or southern border get raped? Yep, 80% get raped over the southern border, children and women. So that is definitely true. They need to crack down on businesses hiring illegals. Yeah, definitely. Definitely crack down. And I think when you say crack down, you also have to keep pushing past that. Because like I said, they're going to falsify paperwork. They're going to put up this pretense of, oh, they're here legally. Oh, I treat them well. Oh, they get paid minimum wage, you know? But you have to, and I think another thing why human trafficking exists, let's say, for example, in the farmlands of like California, for example, is because one, most American citizens don't want to go into a field and pick oranges or pick grapes or pick avocados or whatever it is. They see that as like lower work. They don't want to get paid minimum wage. They don't want to get paid $10 to do that. I don't know why, because it's money, but whatever. As long as you're not doing that job forever, like, I would totally do something like that and get paid money if I was like in high school or in college or something like that, or in between jobs. It's a great way to make money, but whatever. And then two, our prices for fruit would skyrocket, because if the people had to pay American citizens more money than they do with the illegals who get paid very, very little to nothing, then our fruit is going to skyrocket, and then everyone's going to complain and throw a hissy fit. They would pick the fruit if the wages went up. Yeah, well, what do you mean by like minimum wage? I mean, you would have to get paid minimum wage. I mean, obviously, if someone's gonna pay me $50 an hour, I'll go pick fruit for you any day. Yeah, fruit prices would go up. Same with clothing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, at least America, for example, likes the comfortability and likes the low prices. So they don't really want to sacrifice that And so since they don't want to sacrifice that, they turn a blind eye. I think another thing is that it's been perpetuated so long in our nation. If fruit prices were always, I'm just gonna throw out a number, like let's say an orange always costs $7, then it's kind of like, yeah, an orange costs $7. Yeah, of course it does. You don't question it. But when you've grown up your entire life, an orange costing $2, if all of a sudden it costs $7, you're gonna panic. You're gonna throw a hissy fit, and so they're just like, well, to keep the people happy, we'll just keep it at $2. We make more money, who cares about these humans? Power to me, money to me, blah, 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 blah. Vegans would be mad. LOL. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you go to Whole Foods or Sprouts or any of these organic health stores, they already cost more money. But I think it's great that people shop there because it's like, wow, you're putting your mouth where your money is, or your money where your mouth is. You are saying that you want organic food that is, not chemically manipulated, that's, sourced well and from a good, sustainable place, and you're paying for it. Like, that is awesome. I wish we could all do that. And same thing for, like, meat, for example. A lot of vegans and vegetarians are like, we hate the meat industry, we hate the farming industry, so we're just not going to touch it at all. We're just completely vegan. We think it's all corrupt, we think it's all terrible, so we're just not even going to touch it. And I think that's great. They are putting their money where their mouth is. They are fighting for animal rights, and they are doing it in real life. And then there's some people who still want to eat meat, but want to make sure that it's a grass-fed cow, that it's not from this huge farm, this huge mass-produced farm that stuffs all the animals into a tiny corral, and they're all stepping on each other and stepping on their feces and never see the light of day, and are so genetically modified, and just treated terribly. Like, definitely, that is great. Put your money where your mouth is. I try to check myself on that as much as possible. We're not going to be perfect. I think that's something I'm going to close up with this with. I didn't talk that much about men's rights compared to this, but whatever. But put our money where our mouth is. Know that we're not perfect. We're gonna mess up. We constantly have to check ourselves and reevaluate and be self-aware and improve and grow and change. And actually go and do something, fight for it, pick a topic that you're really passionate about and go for that full force, and fight for that, because if you're just gonna, do nothing, then you're not helping anyone. So I think that's all I got for today. To conclude, talk about men's rights a little bit and how there is a very disproportion with feminism, kind of hating men and not really caring about men's rights. Someone put it very eloquently in a comment of a video that I saw. It's like, oh, so women want to fight to be in the military and to be in STEM and to be firefighters and police, but they don't want to fight to do all the dirty jobs like sewer work and construction and oil rigs and I don't know, the list can go on and on. But doing all these like hard working, dirty jobs that you could die from. So, I mean, you could die from the military and stuff like that, but they're not as prestigious and they're not as coveted after. So I thought that was very interesting that they're pushing in that category, but they're not pushing in the other. So it's kind of that uneven playing field. I missed the men's rights part. Damn it. Oh, I know. You probably would have liked it. You can go watch the beginning of the video after this about me talking about men's rights. Yeah, I could continue to talk about men's rights for a really long time. I don't know. I feel bad for men nowadays. I mean, my goodness. Yeah, we should talk about. I'll definitely open this topic up again because there's some things about men's rights that I didn't necessarily touch on. It's a very lengthy topic, just like feminism is today. There's a lot of facets that go into it, a lot of nuances, a lot of different stances. And then obviously I concluded on human trafficking. I just barely touched that as well, just kind of giving a broad overview about how it's going on in the world today and how it looks differently for every single place. But we definitely need to be more aware of it, because it's not like slavery. Did you speak on men and visitation rights? Or are you talking men and visitation rights? Are you talking about for their children? I read a huge list of statistics in the very beginning about child custody and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I could break down every single statistic that I read earlier and go into a lot of detail on it. But yes, custody visitation rights are very much disproportionately favored towards women. I'll have to watch it after. Yeah, I really hope you do. Yeah, I don't know, it's a very interesting topic. Yeah. And then, yeah, to conclude, human trafficking, I just barely touched the subject with human trafficking in the world. Like I said, it can consist in very different ways, but it's happening. We're turning a blind eye to it. Oh, I was going to say something about how it's not like slavery back in the days when we had black slaves in the South during the 1800s, 1600s as well in America, because it was open. Like, a Southern farmer back then wasn't going to be like, oh, these aren't my slaves. What are you talking about? Like, no, yeah, this is my slave. This person's not human. Like, they have no rights. Like, blah, 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 blah. Nowadays, people hide slavery because it's so considered so much of an evil and so contested and outlawed in so many places. I use quotes because it's happening. So, I mean, it's outlawed, but, like, it's still happening. And then some places like Thailand, it's not even illegal. But it's not as prevalent. It's not in your face. And if it's not in your face, you're not going to be confronted with it. Like germs, for example. I can't see germs, but there's probably germs like all over me right now. And there's probably germs all over this entire room. But because I can't see it, I'm not confronted with it. So I ignore it. And I pretend it doesn't exist. Africa is still selling slaves. Yeah, heck yes they are. Like I talked about that. I don't know if you were here for that, but the children on boats. Yeah, Africa definitely still has slavery, for sure, for sure. But most of the world, at least the western part of the world, like Europe and America and Canada and stuff like that, has said that slavery is illegal. But it definitely still exists. Like I said, it's just under the table more, and it's not as talked about. It's not as prevalent. It's not as hush hush. It's they found better ways to hide it, and it's not prevalent in society. So yeah, that's about it. Almost exactly 45 minutes, which is about how long I thought this video was going to go for. So that is great on my part. Definitely not as long as last time. I picked 2 topics, and I think I stuck to them pretty well. We kind of got into immigration a little bit, but that will be for a later video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I will come hopefully sometime soon with another video. Cool. I'm gonna end the stream now. Bye!